Going on, my fellow A-plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode. It is I, your Morphinominal host, as always, Adam Perez, coming through once again with a brand new episode. And happy Toku Tuesday, as always, ladies and gentlemen. You know we have a ton of content available for you guys today, but as of right now, we're going to be getting into Zenkaiger episode number 9 for you guys. As Zenkaiger continues to be on a roll, if you ask me. 3 episodes in a row that have just been fire, and then not only that, but the Zenkai Red Great Introduction 2-part miniseries was also great, if you ask me, as well. So I'm on a bit of an enthusiastic roller coaster right now when it comes to Zenkaiger, and I'm absolutely loving the content that they're dishing out for us week in and week out. The Stay Caesar debut we wind up getting in episode 7, and now this back-to-back, if you will, TwoKaiser 2-part debut has been really fantastic to not only learn a little bit more about Zox Goldtweaker, but his sister as well in Flint, along with their other 2 accompanying buddies, if you will, that we'll definitely go ahead and get into this week. So I am thrilled to talk about Zenkaiger episode number 9. So let's go ahead and get right into it, guys. And this episode really just kind of continues on from where we wind up leaving off last week, as we get to see the Zenkaigers super enthusiastic to go ahead and welcome in this new member, or at least this new character in TwoKaiser, as the majority of our Zenkaigers quickly surround him and just bombard him with a bunch of questions. But there are two Zenkaigers in here that are a little bit more hesitant, and that is in fact Jurin along with Majin. Jurin definitely wants people to be a little bit more cautious in regards to just jumping on board with being the friendliest person in the world with this guy, and then you quickly get to see Majin in her fortune-telling globe, if you will, letting her know that her fortune's telling them that maybe they shouldn't be so overly friendly, if you will. And that's something that I am kind of curious if that will come back to kind of bite the Zenkaigers in the ass. Like, I wonder if Majin's fortune is actually correct. I mean, maybe it was kind of correct in the beginning of this episode, where we do see TwoKaiser eventually plunder the candy cafe for themselves. But maybe we can rest a little bit easy towards the end of this episode when we see that TwoKaiser does have a little bit more of an open mind and light-hearted side of him, you know, giving Kaido the victory, paying back the candy cafe for all the stuff that they wind up taking, you know what I mean? So while he definitely has that hard exterior, there is a little bit of a softer side and at least open-mindedness to him, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Captain Marvelous a little bit, right? Like, he definitely felt like that hard shell when we first got introduced to him, and it definitely took him the season to eventually understand and appreciate the earth and humans a little bit more, right? So I definitely do get those vibes here a little bit when it comes to TwoKaiser. So I am interested to see if Majin's fortune will have lasting effects even after this particular episode. If there is more to TwoKaiser and his sister, then we certainly don't know. But you want to talk about really just spending this episode and giving some great character development for him and his sister, and really some great flashback moments and learning a little bit more about the Tojitendo and Pirates history in here. So when we do come to see our 2 characters in here in TwoKaiser, aka Zox Goldtweaker along with his sister Flint, I love the fact that they allow us to get to learn them a little bit more in this episode. We quickly come to find out that they are from a Piratopia. That's right, a pirate world all for themselves, where everybody is certainly a pirate. And immediately when I heard of Piratopia, I thought to myself, man, I think the Gokaijers would absolutely love this world if that's the case. I believe Zox refers to himself as the parallel world traveling pirates. In other words, world pirates is what they refer to themselves as, which I personally love the name. And this is just to at least let us know that they do travel from different worlds, but from different dimensions as well. So they kind of explore a multiverse, if you will, which Zenkaiger certainly has been dabbling in this series. So that certainly shouldn't come as a surprise. And one of the worlds that they have, in fact, visited, or dimensions, has been, in fact, the Gokaiger world. I think Flint actually mentions that they've bumped into them before, before, or at least have seen them, and that's where they've kind of stole some of their designs in regards to why TwoKaiser certainly looks the way that he certainly does. So I really love seeing just their first impressions, or at least our first impressions of these two characters, right? Giving up some of this information about them being these multiverse travelers as pirates, which I really dig the sound of, honestly. I would be eager to see what other adventures these two characters have certainly been on, to certainly say the least. But once we quickly learn that, again, you get to see that pirate side of them. Not only are they showy, as they certainly have always said, but like pirates, they take what they want when they want, and they definitely have that mindset in here when they do plunder the Candy Cafe. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well, to say the least. But you know, one of the things that I really enjoyed about this episode is that while there are still some questions that I certainly have, one of the questions that we posed towards the end of our review last week was, where did you get these gears from? Have you met Kaido's family before? Did they give these to you? How did you come about your powers, if you will? Something that Kaido definitely tries to ask. And we do get ourselves a great flashback moment in here, which you guys know I'm a big sucker for. But we do see the fact that these world pirates have infiltrated the Tojitendo before. And this is actually backed up by Bakuwas, who does mention the idea that they've bumped into these pirates before. Something that Stay Caesar even picks up on himself personally. But we do get to see Flint and Vox kind of infiltrating the Tojitendo's base, causing some destruction and mayhem, and maybe plundering some technology for themselves, as we wind up seeing them arrive at Ijiru's lab. And maybe this is certainly where they wind up getting their Geertlinger along with their gears. Now, a couple things came to mind when I saw this particular scene. The first one is, if you go back and you watch the episode, if you look at the image of when they actually get to Ijiru's lab and you see all the schematics and everything up on the screen, the very top picture is in fact of a treasure chest. And when I think of that treasure chest, the first thing that comes to mind is a treasure chest that used to be on the Gokai galleon that had a bunch of ranger keys inside of it. I am wondering if a part of how they got the Super Sentai gears is, did they kidnap the treasure chest for themselves? Did they steal it and take those ranger keys and change them into the Super Sentai gears, making it accessible to get those powers as well? I'm not quite sure, but I just found it interesting that there was, in fact, a treasure chest up there. I mean, granted, they could all certainly look the same, you know what I mean? But that's the first thing that certainly came to mind, to certainly say the least. And the second thing that came to mind was, this feels very much like a chicken and the egg scenario. You know, some people wonder, did the egg come first and then the chicken, or does the chicken come first and then the egg? Like, and when I make that comparison or say that, I'm talking about what came first. Did Kaido's parents create the Sentai gears and then Ijiru wind up stealing them? Or is it Ijiru that wind up creating them and then stealing them from Kaido's parents? Or did the parents and Ijiru both work together and then Ijiru turned on them? Who certainly knows? But that is the one question that certainly still tends to elude us. Not so much even for Zox Goldtweaker, but just in general when it comes to who created these gears first, the Ijiru or Kaido's parents as well. So that mystery certainly is still there, but we at least have a little bit of an idea as to how Zox at least wind up getting some of his materials, to say the least. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Also, when it comes to Zox, one of the things that I definitely found out that jumped out at me in this episode is that he clearly loves his sister. He clearly is not one to have his sister messed with. When we do see Ricky and Katana asking for Zox's help because of the fact that his sister needs it, the fact that he immediately stops his battle with Kaido and focuses all his attention on getting his sister back, you can even see the animosity towards the Mochi world villain that we wind up having this week, right? Like when TwoKaiser comes onto the scene, the music changes, the tone changes, he's balling up his fist, all right? The deal that him and Kaido wind up having to face each other in regards to that duel has now change to whoever can defeat this guy first and put on that ass whipping is gonna be the winner in here. And so I thought that was a really interesting mentality for us to at least learn how close Zox along with Flint truly is. And then you don't want to mess with his sister when it comes down to it at the end of the day, so be very careful. But in this battle that we wind up seeing, which mind you, this episode has some great action, we come to find out that he actually has two forms he can go ahead and transform into. His O-Ranger form, which is inspired with the fusion of him along with Ricky, and I do call it a fusion because of the fact that you can clearly hear both of their voices anytime he winds up talking after he gets into that form. Like, for some reason, when I think of it, I think of Dragon Ball Z and how when you have two characters fuse, not only do their costumes kind of combine with one another, but you can actually hear their voices talking over each other. So I've always loved that effect, honestly, when it comes to the voice modulating. So I always love being able to hear those two voices showcasing itself. So we got Ricky that helps activate the O-Ren form, which is inspired by the O-Ranger team, and then you got Katana, who actually helps form the Shinken form, which is in fact inspired by Shinkenger. And so I love the fusion technique and the forms that we wind up getting in here. Clearly the O-Ren form very much more hand-to-hand combat, whereas the Shinken form definitely uses his blade from his gear to linger, which I'm a big fan of, honestly. That blade looks pretty badass, to certainly say the least. But really love getting the opportunity to see what this certainly looks like in action, because you guys know I really wasn't the biggest fan of the design for TwoKaiser when I was looking at it in the scans, but seeing everything in action, from his dancing to his morphing sequences, what he looks like when he fights, I think all these forms for TwoKaiser really do look pretty great, to certainly say the least. But I'm really fascinated to see how Zox along with Kaido is certainly going to go ahead and get along. Clearly, whatever animosity or issues that these two characters wind up having, they've kind of easily kind of pushed past them based off of the fact that they both wind up taking down the Mochi world here this week. So it should be pretty interesting to see how that relationship certainly forms going forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kaido maybe eventually asks Zox as to how he wind up getting into the Tojitendo lair, because that is definitely very much on the mind of Kaido. He is definitely trying to figure out how to get back there. We definitely have seen him attempt to try and get to the Toji lair and unfortunately fail in the past. So the fact that Zox was able to get on board, I think if anything, this might open the eyes to Kaido a little bit and maybe asking for some assistance and being able to do that for himself to see if maybe he can find his parents on there. So we'll definitely have to see how that goes. A couple of honorable mentions in here. In regards to the Tojitendo, one, I continue to be a big fan of Bokawas in regards to how they handle his hammer fists. Anytime he gets in a pissed off mood and he's got his generals around him and he hammers his hand down on the ground, I love just the effect that it adds of like everybody bouncing and things like that in his anger, especially when you see Ijiru toppling over and things like that. You even see Stacy kind of bouncing up and down from the anger of Bokawas. I thought that was pretty interesting, but it does bring up a question as to what Ijiru's countermeasures certainly are. I'm wondering if this means he's definitely going to give Stay Caesar sort of that upgrade that he needs, right? Maybe that energy upgrade, since his the purple gears, clearly if you use too many of them, it winds up zapping your energy. So I am wondering if the countermeasure is not only maybe a better henshin device, but definitely a Zord as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if part of that countermeasure was in fact his Battle Caesar robot that we're about to go ahead and get here, hopefully within the next couple of episodes. So I am interested to see what Ijiru winds up kind of coming up with in regards to a plan. As far as some of the gears that were utilized in this episode, we do see that in the battle between Kaito along with Zox, that the Denji Men gears are in fact utilized, which actually gives Kaito the ability to use his metallic boxing gloves, which I'm always a really big fan of, honestly, when they do seeing them in action. We're currently going through the TwoKaiser series as of right now. We do have reaction videos up here on our YouTube page. I freak out anytime that they change into Denji Men, because I'm such a big fan of the hand-to-hand combat and the metallic gloves. I think it looks great on them. So to be able to see him working with them, I thought was great. It did put a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, though, seeing TwoKaiser just shoot Kaido in the back, not only just once, but several times. Like at the beginning when they're in the rock quarry or wherever they're certainly at, he shoots him in the back just before he winds up leaving to go ahead and take care of Mochi. And then even when they get to the Mochi world and they both have to fight, with Kaido running forward, he winds up shooting him in the back once again also. So I'm not a fan of that. I'm just not a fan of the shooting somebody in the back. To me, it just really shows what your true intentions are, to be perfectly honest. So that does certainly rub me the wrong way a little bit, but you know, I think Zox maybe made up for that towards the end, at the end of this particular episode. Other quick honorable mention, I do see here that we have a little bit of a new intro. The intro in the beginning of the show actually does include Zox along with Flint. So I am glad that 9 episodes in, boom, we're already kind of introducing them when it comes to the opening theme and the intro for this show. So I thought that was pretty neat also. But other than that, guys, I think that's pretty much everything. I really do love what Flint and Zox are definitely going to bring. I think their attitudes will certainly spice things up and add a little bit more drama to the show. I mean, I think we have a ton of humor already. I think the Zenkaigers definitely provide that for us, especially with some of the chaos, and especially in this episode when it came to the Mochi, the idea that they were looking for the Kashiwa Mochi, particularly seeing Gaon along with Majin just going crazy over it, along with Flint as they wind up, I guess this was all part of the Mochi World's power set to begin with. So the Zenkaigers definitely do provide the drama, but do provide the energy along with the humor, and I'm really hoping that Zox and Flint just continue to help add some of that drama and some of that backstory to Kaido and his family, along with the Tojitendo and things like that. So I'm eager to see how everybody else definitely gets along, and how the additions of these two characters certainly will work going forward. But guys, at the end of the day, again, these are just my A+ opinions. I definitely want to go ahead and know yours. What do you guys think about Zox along with Flint? Would you guys think about some of the Kaido versus Zox stuff that we wind up getting, along with a ton of other things that we wind up seeing in this week's episode? Go ahead and let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. But other than that, that's going to go ahead and do it for us here. We certainly will be back next week with a brand new Zenkaiger review for you guys, so certainly stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, do me a big favor, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Full throttle, non-stop. Take care.